Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. We are very proud to be part of the Pigskin Podcast Network with our partners DraftKings. And tonight we come to you, and the offseason is definitely well underway for the Steelers. And a lot of stuff to cover tonight from general manager, defensive coordinator, offensive line coach, you name it. But guys, we'll start, and Ian is supposed to join us eventually. One of his 88 kids is still awake, so he'll be along soon. But TJ Watt wins the Defensive Player of the Year award tonight at the NFL Honors. I think it was a foregone conclusion. However, it was really a foregone conclusion when JJ Watt strolled out to give the award, and it kind of seemed like destiny at that point there. So, Ben, just your thoughts on the season of TJ Watt there winning the award.
Oh, great season. I still think that him not being given that sack in the final game versus the Rats is kind of BS, but it is what it is. I mean, they're not going to give it to him.
No,
the whole aborted play thing. I think you hit the nail on the head the day it happened. You said, you mean like when a guy falls down in the fetal position to give his friend a sack so he can break a record, which is what Favre did. So I don't see why they couldn't give him that sack, but they didn't. Yeah, that sucks. That's the only part of it. I mean, right. He talked about it when he was at the Pro Bowl. His brother has 3 of these.
Yeah.
His brother's still going to harass him.
Hell yes.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan, what were your thoughts about TJ? Was a foregone conclusion probably, but still good to see him collect that award.
Yeah, I expected him to get it. I think he deserves it as well. But there was a part of me that thought that because the defense overall wasn't that great this year, that they maybe would take that into account. But no, he's one of the best in the game. And, anytime your name is mentioned with Aaron Donald, and then obviously Micah Parsons, wow, like that kid's real good. I mean, unanimous defensive rookie of the year. TJ wasn't unanimous, but I expected some other guys to get votes.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, well deserved, and it's great to have an individual award, and he already said that earlier. I know that he would trade that immediately for a Super Bowl, and
right.
It's unfortunate that the highlight of the season probably is him winning this, and then maybe those last 2 games getting into the playoffs. But good for him, and good chance he gets a couple more, at least 1 or maybe more.
He keeps, all said and done. Yeah, he keeps up what he's been doing. It's going to be in the cards for sure. And he actually got a really, I don't know if you can get much more of an endorsement. Mel Blount, the Steelers Hall of Famer from, of course, the 70s dynasty teams, basically called him a guy for any generation. And when a guy like that compliments you, man, that's almost as good as getting the Defensive Player of the Year award, quite frankly.
Speaking to the voting specifically, I was kind of surprised that Watt got 42 out of 50 votes. I did not expect it to be that much of a landslide. I thought he'd win, but there was a strong push to get Parsons votes, and Aaron Donald. I mean, Aaron Donald's amazing.
I think once he got the tied the record, I think a lot of people said, okay, I have to vote for this guy. I'm just guessing, but Ryan.
Yeah. He in only 15 games.
I'm
gonna say it, and in no way is this me critiquing him. It's just stating facts. He has it's 51 or 50 or 51 sacks at home, and on the road it's I think 35 and
Big difference.
It's harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is. It's harder.
And it's crazy because I think he only had one sack in his last. I think he had one sack in in 4 or 5 final road games, and he still had to. It's crazy to me. And sometimes he was hurt. Don't get me wrong. Right. It is harder playing on the road. He
didn't stay healthy this year, and you got to deal with the noise factor in away stadiums that isn't necessarily cooperating with you. There's less noise in away stadiums.
Yeah,
right.
Where it's more difficult when they're playing in Hines for opposing offensive linemen, for the guy across from him to hear the snap count, and so it gives him a little bit of an advantage, and he uses it. God bless him for it.
Absolutely. And we're talking literally split-second differences here, but it makes a huge difference.
0.2 of a second at best.
It's a huge difference as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome Ian into the program there.
Ian got a haircut.
If you are watching the broadcast,
I got all of them
Ian has gotten all of his hairs cut. He looks
Still
like
dad, too.
Yes, I did. In fact, I washed my hair tonight. Yeah, something like that.
Ian, 2000.
TJ Watt won the Defensive Player of the Year award tonight. Just your very general thoughts on
it's
that.
About damn time. That's about all I have to say on that.
Yeah,
it had been coming for the last 2 years. And,
for sure. For sure.
Honestly, 2 years ago, he probably should have won it and didn't win it because we didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
This year, that was one of my big concerns. If we didn't make the playoffs, was would they discount TJ's accomplishment? Because we didn't make like the year that Calvin Johnson broke the single season receiving yards record. The Lions were 4-12 or 3-13.
They weren't real good.
Yeah, so it was kind of like, how much did it actually matter? But we made the playoffs, which I think got him enough to get over the hump.
It does help.
It does help, absolutely.
Yeah. No, yes. I agree.
And it also helps too, looking back at the season, that there were games where, like the Seattle game, he made the game-winning play. Making those game-winning plays is significant. The year Troy won Defensive Player of the Year, I remember that was like my second or third year of blogging on Blogspot, and I started writing an article on could James Harrison win it again. And by the end of the article, I had talked myself into Troy winning it because Troy's plays were just so much more impactful. Like Harrison had better numbers in 2010 than he did in 2008 when he won it, but Troy made so many more impactful plays that won games for us that year. I was like, Troy should win this.
Yeah. No, and that's ultimately what it's. What do they say in these types of situations, that you need that moment, you need that big play, something like that, and he authored a few of those, and as we were talking about too, he did that hurt a couple of times too. I still think there's several games he played far less than 100%,
and he did it. He did it in prime time. At the end of the year, that the Monday night game with 4 sacks against Cleveland. I mean, Aaron Donald winning it last year, a lot of that was he ended the year so strong in those last couple games that I think that kind of, like with the MVP, they might say it's a full season thing, but the last couple games always get weighted higher. And especially when
for sure.
It's a primetime game when everyone can watch it.
So the question is, though, has it been awarded yet, the NFL MVP, or no?
Yeah,
the
it was tonight.
MVP is tonight, but I don't think it's been awarded yet. They've done defensive rookie, offensive rookie, which was Chase to the Bengals. Defense was Parsons with the Cowboys.
Of course. Deserving.
And they just announced part of the Hall of Fame class too, but I did not see all of it, and I'm trying to multitask, which I cannot do as an old person. But also, hey, by the way, what are we drinking tonight? Ben, what are you enjoying?
Uncle Nearest, of course.
Yes.
Which is delicious.
What does that go for right there?
I think here, but it's hard to say because the taxes in PA are so fucking ridiculous for liquor.
Same here.
Here it's about 65.
Okay.
You got a lot of problems, man.
Yeah.
And beer, hazy.
Gotcha. All right. Ian, which one did you end up choosing tonight?
I cracked open my new bottle of Bradshaw bourbon.
Good for you.
So
very nice.
Terry Bradshaw makes a damn good bourbon. Everyone.
So I watched his Going Deep on HBO this past week, and he was talking a little bit about the bourbon, and he made fun of himself. He said, the alcohol content, 51.9%. He said that was my career passing completion percentage.
It was a different era, man. That's the thing that people don't understand is that guys that made the Hall of Fame and played in the 70s had career passer ratings in the 70s.
Yes. I mean, you
could
handed off or you went deep.
You could mug receivers all the way down the field.
Yep,
if you were within three steps of the quarterback when he threw the ball, you could do whatever you wanted to him.
Yeah.
Just hit him anyway.
Very different.
Not a problem.
Very different. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Pass interference? Come on.
The Mel Blount role, you mean?
The Mel Blount. Exactly.
Mel wasn't the only guy that did it. He was just really good at it.
He was just really good at it. Yeah. And by the way, our guys, Dan at DC4LCustomTees.com, they have a Lester Hayes Stick'em t-shirt.
Fuck that guy.
They do a lot of Raiders tees. And, Ben, you and I are clearly old enough to remember the days of the Stick'em.
Oh, yeah.
And, literally, he'd just go over to the sidelines and just coat his hands and his arms,
his forearms and his hands.
Oh,
and it was like if he touched the ball once, you couldn't use it anymore.
No, that was why
they finally made that crap illegal.
Yeah, they had to. Of course, the gloves nowadays. I mean, they might as well be the same.
The gloves are great, but they're not. They don't damage the ball any.
No.
Honestly.
Hey, so let's turn the attention back to
Is Ryan drinking water?
Well, yeah,
no, it's just I got a tall boy tonight. It's a vodka and tonic as always.
Oh, okay, all right.
I just last week I had to run upstairs and get extra. Listen, I'm prepared tonight. Simple as that.
All right,
you get a few weeks to have some experimentation.
I'm trying.
What is Ian doing?
Ian's got all kinds of
Maggie
issues tonight.
is a bit restless.
Mass chaos.
I think Maggie's kicking the shit out of him. He doesn't know what to do there.
That's good.
So the Steelers have yet to name a general manager replacement for Kevin Colbert. And again, just to reiterate, Colbert will stay on with the team through the draft. And at that point, he will remain with the Steelers. And I think we're going to use the term advisor after that. But they've interviewed both Omar Khan and Brandon Hunt in terms of internal. They've interviewed 3 other guys. And then Louis Riddick, the ESPN guy and former personnel guy with the Redskins and Eagles. Yes, it was Redskins when he was there, so I can say that. Samir Suleiman came up this week, a guy that was in Pittsburgh and is now the new GM in Carolina. So
he's not the GM in Carolina.
Oh, I thought he was.
No.
What did he get elevated to?
Basically, he's like Omar Khan's position, where he's like vice president of administrative football, something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like the assistant to the traveling secretary, like George Costanza.
No. I mean, he takes
a little better than that.
Yeah, it takes care of the contracts and all the administrative side of the football.
Ryan, what as you sit there and look at this thing right now, Ryan, where do you think this is headed? Is this going to stay internal? Is one guy going to get it? Just your best guess right now.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised that they haven't brought anybody in yet. We have combine coming up, pro days coming up, free agency coming up. And even though Kevin is, maybe taking a step back, I think you would want to have as much time with Kevin as you could. Mm-hmm. I don't see the Steelers' way changing that much because, obviously Tomlin's still there. Art 2 is still there.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that most of their scouts are going to stay as well. So, but I say that, and I do think that they will promote both Omar and B. Hunt Maybe B Hunt doesn't get the GM title, but they'll both be actively involved. And I due diligence is probably like my word I use most on here. But I think it's good. Louis Riddick. I actually really enjoy. I actually enjoy the Monday Night Football crew. Greasy, and Riddick and Steve Levy. I think they're good. And I like listening to Riddick. He's a Pitt guy as well.
He's always well prepared in my book.
Yeah, absolutely. And
was John Gruden, though. I mean, so
tell you what, man.
Well, I'm not saying he's well prepared, which means you should sign him as a GM. I just mean as a Monday night analyst, I think he does a good job.
I'm not saying that he would be bad at the job. What I am saying is he hasn't had a job in the NFL for 9 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
And the track record of these guys that go from TV to coaching / GM, Dick Vermeil notwithstanding, is not a great one.
No.
So I'm not sold just because he's likable and he's smart. I'm not sold on the guy.
Oh, no. I'm with you. Plus the fact that he's got to share time with another guy that, used to be in a GM office named Mike Tannenbaum, who
is a douchebag.
He wasn't even a former player. At least Riddick was a former player. I mean, Tannenbaum, I think, was like the stand-in for like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
The thing with Tannenbaum is he's wrong. Tannenbaum is wrong so often.
Yeah.
It's why would they let you speak?
I know. Ian, where do you think this thing's headed?
I mean, John Clayton somehow still gets speaking gigs, and he's wrong all the time too. But
do they pay anything, or is he just like on the radio in Pittsburgh
probably
as a favor to him to keep him relevant?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going
maybe.
with that.
Clayton was really good back when he was with ESPN and was connected and had sources, and now he's just talking off the top of his head or out the other orifice at the other end of his body.
He's guessing worse than we do.
Yes. Yeah. But at any rate, on the GM front,
we call it guessing, though.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
I think as Ryan said, there is some value to having a GM, or at least your heir apparent, if you will, kind of in the building, part of the draft process. Even if they're not the ones making the decision, they're the ones that are going to inherit this team and inherit this draft class and have to deal with them, moving forward. I think there's a lot of really smart numbers people out there right now, and this is not to denigrate Omar Khan at all, but there's a lot of smart numbers people out there. What there aren't a lot of, generally speaking, is people that are good at dealing with other people. And that's one of the key roles of a GM is negotiating contracts. And anyone can look at numbers on a spreadsheet and figure out, oh, we can do this with the cap or we could do that. But you actually have to sit down with a person and their agent and talk to them and convince them why they should do something. And having those people skills, plus just being able to evaluate talent and, when push comes to shove and you're on the clock on the draft and, you're listening to scouts from over here and scouts from over here and your head coach and everyone else talking at you, we should draft this guy or that guy. Somebody has to be able to make that decision, right? So you need a decision maker and a good people person. And I think Kevin Colbert is really good at both of those things. Yeah. And, we've done a really good job with the numbers, thanks to the guys we've had in the building. But I think, having somebody that can kind of lead that organizational structure is really good, and I'm glad they're doing their due diligence. And I'm gonna preface this next comment by saying I'm gonna say something really unpopular, but it's similar to what I said about Kenny Pickett, that one of the big issues in this town, both with the media and with fans, is that they think that anyone who went to Pitt shits gold, that anything they do is they can do no wrong, right? So if we hire Louis Riddick because he's a Pitt guy, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt across the board. Even if he's making bad decisions, it's never going to be his fault. Like if we draft Kenny Pickett, if he sucked, anything he did it would be the offensive line, be the offensive coordinator. That you're going to get into this mindset of, well, we got to keep him around and keep giving him chances, even if it's a sunk cost and objectively you should move on. So, and that's just, it's unfortunate that we can't be objective about anyone who went to Pitt or was involved in Pitt at some point, but that's just kind of how this town is.
Ian, it's a valid point. I've seen it for years. We've all seen that type of bias, if you will.
Colbert's a Pittsburgh guy. He didn't go to University of Pittsburgh, play there, but he's a Pittsburgh guy. That's part of the reason that they were attracted to him. Let's be honest. I mean, the Rooneys knew he had Pittsburgh roots. They also knew he was a good football man, and they brought him in, liked him, hired him.
It didn't hurt that he went to North Catholic, where all the Rooneys went too.
Right.
Go Trojans.
Yeah, sure. Cooper Kupp named your offensive MVP for those listening and
really
not offensive MVP, which I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be your MVP. So yeah,
I don't know that Aaron Rodgers is going to be. I'm interested in this because he's pissed off so many members of the press this year.
True.
That I really wonder if there's not going to be some bias in the voting. I think he deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really
do. And plus what's the other option? Tom Brady, who's
super likable
for most of the media. So
he's gotten more likable.
Yeah,
it's well put, Ryan.
Well, he's really good at Twitter.
He is really good.
Part of the problem.
How good he is at Twitter.
Yeah, I hate how good he is at Twitter too.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, you are listening to the SCB Steelers podcast presented by DEK Roofing of South Florida. DEK serves Broward and the southern Palm Beach counties, whether it's commercial, industrial, residential, multifamily, or condos. Contact DEK Roofing today by visiting dekroofing.com. Defensive coordinator. It is not somebody from the outside that so many people wanted. Teryl Austin is your new Steelers defensive coordinator. He's been with the Steelers the last 3 seasons, I believe. And there's a lot to dive into here, from the play calling to, what he's been doing and in terms of what his role and stuff is. Ryan, go ahead. I mean, what do we expect from Teryl Austin? Is this just going to be kind of rinse repeat type thing with his defense, or do we expect to see anything different?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand that head coaches call plays. I get it. I get it.
Sure.
Okay. But if you have the talent, it doesn't necessarily matter who calls the plays. So
that's right.
Austin, sorry, Ian, he is a Pitt guy. But he has AFC North experience with the Bengals and Ravens. He somehow made the Lions into a top 5. I think there was 2 actually, but a top 5 defense.
Yep.
Talented players.
He's been here since 2019. That was, and that was an outside hire at the time. And credit to whoever made that hire, because, the wheels have been in motion. I think that, for as many people think that, if we just plug in a quarterback, whether that's Kenny Pickett or Aaron Rodgers or whatever pipe dream it is, that this team is going to be super competitive right off the bat. I don't think that's accurate. This team needs a lot of work. Mm-hmm. On defense, I would say they're not as bad as in other areas, but I do think that they need to get some depth. They need to get some talent. And then with a full off season, I'll say this. I don't expect the Steelers' way to change that much. Mike Tomlin's been here since 2007. If he is the man that has been indeed calling the plays and designing the plays and whatever, him and Austin will work together on that. So Tomlin says that every week at his press conference. We're not going to see any dramatic changes. I think it's all about getting talented players, making sure they know their assignments, and just putting people in the right position to succeed. And for as many greats that they had in 05 and 08, Ryan Clark, guys like that will just tell you that they put us in the positions we understood where we were supposed to go, and that when everybody knows where everybody's supposed to be and mm-hmm. you can execute it, mm-hmm. you win games.
Ben, how much does it really matter that it's Mike Tomlin calling the D versus whether it's Dick LeBeau, Keith Butler, or Teryl Austin? I mean, what's the real? What do people get so pissed off about all this for?
In my opinion, people get pissed off because they expect this defense to be really good, and they're just not. They're not that talented.
Yeah.
Especially at linebacker and along the defensive line this year. And yeah, I know Cam Hayward plays defensive line, but he's one guy.
Yeah.
He's one guy.
He is.
And, when you bring in Henry Mondu and you say, hey, go play to it, when you bring in Isaiah Buggs, and you're like, hey, man, go in there and play tight Sanalualu. Be him. You're just not going to get the same result. You're just not. And they couldn't stop the run to save their goddamn lives this year.
Yeah.
The linebackers didn't flow to the ball. The linemen didn't hold up anybody coming out to block the linebackers, which made things even worse.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible. They were the worst run defense in the league. Now, as far as Austin specifically goes, I think he's probably going to bring some new wrinkles to this defense, but it's not going to be completely different. I don't see a lot of changes. The thing that's funny to me is when Austin was hired, when he was brought in 2019, people were really excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as they were concerned, that meant change. That signified change.
Right.
And there were some things that changed in the defensive backfield, but they were subtle. And then they brought in Minka, and, well, I mean, we all know what happened then. I mean, Minka's a really smart player, and that made things really easy. And,
although Minka credited Teryl Austin with being really good and helping him develop and learn too.
He did.
Yeah.
But Minka, I mean, immediately, week one, there was a dramatic improvement, a dramatic uptick in the performance of the defensive backfield. And a lot of that is just because you've got a guy back there who's sharp, who can diagnose the play and is calling it out and telling guys where to be, unlike Mike Mitchell, who, when he was back there at free, there was constant miscommunication.
Yep.
There was constant finger pointing back and forth. And it was just like, I thought you had him. No, you had him. No, you.
When it was every week in the press conferences, they were talking about, we had the right play called. We just didn't communicate the right way. And
right.
It's true.
It was every week they talked about that. And, it was funny. Ben's point's spot on about players, right? Like when we had Troy Polamalu, Dick LeBeau was a genius. After Polamalu retired and we had Mike Mitchell, everyone was like, what happened to Dick LeBeau? Why isn't he as good anymore?
Are you saying talent matters?
Yes.
Yeah. Great players make coaches. Okay?
Yeah.
Tom Brady made Bill Belichick. He did.
Also, if you record the other team's practice.
Oh, that helps. That's helpful. That's helpful. Record their walkthrough. Yeah, that's helpful too, for sure.
So, I mean, Ian, when Austin came in, the one thing that he did was he attacked those issues that Ben was just talking about, the communication problems in the secondary. So, I mean, we've seen that cleaned up a lot. Do you have hope that the rest of the defense gets cleaned up a little bit too in terms of communication?
Maybe. I think, Austin's philosophy for a lot of what I've seen is a lot of kind of press man coverage. And we saw some more of that, when we had the guys to do it, when Joe Hayden was healthy. Mike Hilton transformed from a practice squad guy to being one of the best blitzing, slot corners in the league, and then cashed in and now is,
in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, playing in the Super Bowl. Congrats to him. But he's definitely, well, all the years we played Cincinnati when he was there, it was a lot of cover two press man type stuff, and it was difficult to get the ball down the field. And now that he is the defensive coordinator, also, I think his voice will carry a little more in the scouting and drafting process rather than just being the defensive backs coach, right? That now if he says, hey, I want this guy because he can do this that fits this way in the defense that I want to call, that might carry some more weight rather than your defensive backs coach saying, hey, this guy has some skills I can work with, but does it fit in with your defensive coordinator's overall philosophy of, are we going to play zone? Are we going to play man? Are we going to, the most infuriating thing, are we going to continue to match from the outside in and leave linebackers on slot receivers when they move their number one guy
That's
into
on
the
all
slot?
of them. That's on all of them. That's on the linebackers coaches. That's on Keith Butler. That's on Mike Tomlin. That's on all of them.
Yeah.
Because we saw them swap those out. We saw Vince yell into a corner to get inside. He went out and covered the running back.
And then
they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
There were times when they did it right, and then times when they didn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought. Offensive line coach, Ben. Are we? Go ahead, Ian.
We do need a new secondary coach now, I think, too. So
we do have one. There were two coaches. We had a secondary coach, and then Austin's title was senior defensive assistant.
Right.
Defensive backfield. Right.
Yeah.
So he was the senior coach, and then they had a defensive backfield coach.
Yeah.
But when you got 10 guys in a group, I agree with Ian. You need to add a coach there. Just having one guy, it's not really enough.
Yeah.
No, it's very
big
true.
A group.
Yeah.
Anyway, offensive line.
Yeah, Chris Morgan took the job in Chicago. He bolted pretty quickly. We know that Adrian Clem left with a couple games left in the season. He's at the University of Oregon, and the Steelers need an offensive line coach. So I mean, where do you think they're headed with this?
I am hearing things about maybe Doug Marrone.
He just went to.
He took it.
Saints. Yeah. Ryan, you're correct. Saints.
That sucks. I did not know that.
So I mean,
that was a couple days ago.
The whole holding out for Mike Munchak, I don't see it happening.
I don't know, man.
I just don't.
Pennsylvania's cold.
Well, and his grandkids aren't in Pennsylvania either.
That's true, but he's not. If he's going to continue coaching, he's not going to work in Denver. So
right.
He's not going to be near those kids anyway. He's not going to be near his daughter.
I know it.
Unless he retires. So you got to kind of wonder what he's going to do. But he's going to have opportunities. I don't really know, man. I'm at a loss.
I am too.
I don't know that I would have kept Chris Morgan either. I don't know. That was a horribly coached line last season. Terrible.
We heard rumblings that there were issues between Morgan and Clem, and that there were players that sided with each, and at times they looked like that because there wasn't any cohesiveness. So maybe there was something to that,
Maybe.
Ryan, Heinz Field is set to be no more. And I did see that Ian posted Aaron Rodgers did win the MVP.
Did.
Wow. He and his man bun going up on stage there, I assume.
He wore it down. It was the long hair.
Oh, good for him. He wore it down. Yeah, that's lovely.
Let's check the water for the voting.
Ryan, what do you think happens here Heinz actually extended one more year than they wanted to. It really has been a perfect relationship. You had the ketchup bottles every time we went in the red zone. It was just great. What do you think? PNC spoken for, PPG Paint spoken for. So what's your bet here?
Yeah, you have to assume that UPMC. It's the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. I will say this because Highmark is Buffalo Stadium, so Highmark is crossing the state lines. So I could see UPMC, obviously for a variety of reasons, but also trying to show Highmark, hey, I'm still the top dog, or whatever.
But Highmark, that little soccer stadium already.
Highmark is Station Square, the Riverhound Stadium. Actually, it's a nice concert venue too.
It is.
We might touch on 80s hair bands, but it's a really nice venue. Aaron Rodgers and with his long hair in the band.
His 39 out of 50 votes for the MVP.
Is that what it was?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised it was that clear.
Rodgers with the MVP band.
Tom Brady got 10.
What about Iron City Beer Field?
I think it would be cool. I really do think it would be cool to have something like that. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who wants to pay the most.
Oh, for sure.
And bottles with beer cans, that would be great.
That would be fantastic. What about U.S. Steel Field?
Here's the thing, and this is I don't know, you might know this or you might not. Ian, you might as well, but I'm gonna sound like an ass when I say this, but Pittsburgh has bad air quality, and it's gotten better over the years.
It's not that bad.
Come on. It's not as bad as it was when the Mills were up and down. This isn't me talking. This is me because I've been involved in a lot of public hearings related to the air quality subject, and
they also have one of the 3 county air quality monitors right across the river from the Clairton Coke Works, which just spews pollution.
The Mon Valley built America, and it's a place that's been forgotten. But so the long story short, I don't necessarily know how that would go over well with the community.
Really
interesting. With U.S. Steel, but the U.S. Steel does have its name on one of the entrance ways, like where the Steelers come out,
right?
Of the tunnel, it says U.S. Steel, but I don't know if it could be U.S. Steel Field. But I actually wish I always thought Three Rivers Stadium was a really good name. I just thought, you know what I mean. I don't
came up with Jagoff Stadium this afternoon.
I mean, I could be. I am a Jagoff, but Jagoff Field, fries on a salad stadium.
Hey, Permanis could put a bid in,
Yeah, Rivers.
Permanis. Well, that's $10,000 a year to be Permanis Stadium. How's that sound?
Rivers Casino Field was brought up.
Rivers Field. Sorry, Rivers Field. There's a dead body in the Mon Park. I
don't know. B-52 Bomber Stadium.
Yeah. Edgar Schneider Stadium. Whatever. But it's it all. I'm assuming the UPMC will have the most money. And
shit, if we're getting that crazy, let's just go Donnie Iris Field, right?
Oh man, yeah.
Donnie Iris,
the Clark Stadium.
What is it possible they change it though? Because not everything goes well with field. I mean, could they go back to stadium?
Could.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
could. Why the hell not?
I was never a fan of field.
I wasn't either.
Yeah, but Heinz Stadium would have sounded dumb. Heinz Field.
Right. No,
I wasn't even a fan of Heinz.
Really?
Yeah, I did not like
Hunts, huh?
No.
Interesting.
No, don't put words
in
my mouth.
Are you also a Flyers fan?
No,
secretly?
don't put words in my mouth. No, I felt that at the time like they could have that would have been the time where they sort of carried on that Three Rivers tradition. And I'm not saying to call it Three Rivers Stadium, but Heinz Field to me, I wasn't alive, but Forbes Field, we already had the field, you know what I mean? We got our park. So I think I would have liked them to have kept it at stadium. And to be fair, I would have been fine with Steelers Stadium, but Panthers play there. So maybe it could have been Pittsburgh Stadium.
Well, and you can't turn down the corporate sponsorship.
Yeah, when somebody says here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because the good old days of,
Daniel
stadiums.
Milton Rooney Field.
There you
go.
That?
Could be.
The
other
those days are gone. I mean, that's the sad part, Those are the types of stadiums and places that we grew up with, named after, famous owners, coaches, mayors, whatever. But I'm curious, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but I'm curious to see where it goes.
No, it'll be a corporate sponsorship of some side.
Yeah. Sure. Hey, let me real quick mention our fine folks at DraftKings here. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code TPPN and get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code TPPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. We'll get to that in just a second. But
you hear it's going to be 90 degrees in LA on Sunday?
I'm assuming that swanky
it doesn't matter.
Got AC, right?
It's a dome stadium. It doesn't make any difference. But 90 degrees in February.
Yeah.
In LA.
Power goes out.
Yeah. Blackout.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a possibility. When I lived in California, we had what do they refer? New Orleans. That happened. That's right.
I forgot.
But we had rolling brownouts when I lived in California, in the Bay Area. It sucked.
No, thank you.
Yeah, your computer would all of a sudden go down. It was like, God.
Oh yeah, and of course they'd give you plenty of heads up, I'm sure too, right?
Oh no, I mean they didn't know when it was going to happen either.
One more Steelers-related item, and then we'll get Super Bowl predictions here. Ian, the national media seems to think that Mike Tomlin is 100% in love with Malik Willis, the quarterback from Liberty University. And look, there's evidence. He spent a ton of time watching him at the Senior Bowl. But does that really mean anything?
Yes and no. I mean, I have freely admitted on this show that the Ryan Shazier draft pick broke my brain. That I felt before that pick, I felt like I had a really good pulse on what this team was and where they were going and who they were interested in. And from Shazier through TJ Watt was definitely on their radar. They had the 30th pick. There was a lot of variability there. But really, up until Najee Harris, they hid their interest in a lot of guys pretty darn well. No one had Artie Burns on their radar. No one had Terrell Edmonds on their radar, and maybe for good reason because those guys weren't that good. But nevertheless, last year they were very transparent about being interested in Najee Harris. So maybe they are very interested in Malik Willis. I mean, Mike Tomlin's been talking since their bye week about being interested in mobile quarterbacks. Right? He said he spent his whole bye week researching how mobile quarterbacks impact the game. So he's been pretty upfront about that. Obviously, we need a quarterback. Malik Willis is probably the most mobile of the draft class. The other thing I will say, though, is don't discount Kenny Pickett because the Pitt practices in the same building as the Steelers. So they see those guys in the hallway. He has a greater knowledge of the guys the Pitt players than anyone else in the draft class up front. He could spend no time on Kenny Pickett during the whole draft process and still know more about him than anyone else from any other team that's scouting Kenny Pickett, just because.
Have you watched any Kenny Pickett tape?
Yes, I have. I'm just saying from a knowledge standpoint, right, that Tomlin could spend no time with Pickett during the draft process and still know more about him and his work ethic and how he operates than any other quarterback in the class, right? Okay. So, the Senior Bowl is right now they're in fact-finding mode, right? They're in how do they perform on the field? How do they perform under pressure? What kind of human beings are they? What kind of people are they? What do they do in interviews? How do they? It's all fact finding right now, right? And as we talked about last week, the Senior Bowl this year had 5 of the top 6 quarterbacks in the draft class, whereas last year it had 1 of the top 6. So it was kind of the ideal place to go and scout quarterbacks. So is there interest there? Yeah, there's definitely interest there.
Let me ask you a question. But when you look at Kenny Pickett, what do you see? Because he's the best of the bunch this year, and
Yeah, I mean, one of my concerns with Pickett is that he's neared his peak. I don't know. Josh Allen, when you watched him in college, you knew he had more, right?
Yeah,
you knew he had.
He threw to bad receivers when he was in college too.
Yeah, you could see he had room to develop. And there's always the question of, does he become Jamarcus Russell and just never find that extra gear and never develop farther, or does he find that and is able to develop? And Josh Allen found it and was able to develop. But I mean, there were questions like that about Patrick Mahomes too, right? Like that it was, he played at Texas Tech, he played against bad defenses. Yeah, he made some crazy throws, but can he do that in the NFL? And yeah, he can do that in the NFL. So, I think with quarterbacks, it's worth gambling on upside versus I'd rather gamble on a high ceiling than a high floor, right? When you go with a high floor guy, you get Derek Carr, you get Kirk Cousins, right? The guys who
when I look at Kenny Pickett, that's what I see. I see Derek Carr with a weaker arm.
Yeah.
Bottom line, I think the thing that is going to
I think Pickett's more mobile than Carr is.
Okay, maybe slightly, but he's also got a weaker arm.
Yeah.
The thing that's going to hold Pickett back is his arm strength. And we already have a quarterback who doesn't have that great an arm with Mason Rudolph. Why do we want another one? Because he's more mobile? I mean,
Malik Willis is more mobile than Pickett is. I mean,
I
would gamble Willis, if I had to choose between the two.
I agree with you. Willis is a boom or bust type prospect. So you're swinging for the fences if you draft Willis.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of, as you put it, he's got a lot of wow to his game and a lot of what to his game.
No, you're right.
And you're looking at it going, what were you thinking there, and why'd you throw that?
Ryan, let me ask you this. Is there any pressure on the Steelers if Pickett's sitting there available at 20? Is there any pressure on them? Just simply because if you go back 40
because
years,
of Dan Marino.
Personally, I think that's silly.
I agree.
But it exists.
So
it's there.
Do you mean fan pressure, like public pressure?
Well, I think, look, I don't think Kevin Colbert's sitting in there sweating bullets because Kenny Pickett's available. Oh, geez, we need to take him. No. But there's going to be fan pressure, right?
Fan reaction.
Oh, of course. I mean, of course there will be fan pressure. And to Ian's defense earlier, just because somebody listen, I get it. I'm born and raised here. I've always rooted for Pitt hoops and Pitt football.
I'm so sorry that you're rooting for Pitt hoops this year.
Listen, man. I go all the way back to the Jerron Browns and Julius Pages. Like those are the good times.
Those were some good years, yeah.
But of course there's pressure to draft Pickett. But here's the thing: Pickett's not going to be there at 20. I don't even think Malik Willis
probably not.
I don't even think Malik Willis is going to be there at 20.
No, you're probably right.
So,
I tend to agree with you.
And I think that's fine. Listen. After this Sunday, we don't got football for a long time, and it sucks. And I know we got to talk about.
Yes, it does.
And I know we got to talk about these things. But now I tweeted this the other day. Listen, a lot is going to happen in between now and the combine. A lot is going to happen in between the combine and pro days and start of free agency. A lot of is going to happen in between free agency and when the Steelers are actually on the clock. Maybe Pickett and Willis do fall to 20. I don't see that happening. But I think that I will say this. I do think that there was pressure last year for them to draft Najee. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's the right move or it wasn't. I know people wanted him to draft an O-lineman, and hindsight's 2020. Creed Humphrey's been amazing, et cetera.
Yeah.
But this is that year where I don't want them to feel pressure to draft a quarterback without not solidifying key components in free agency. And that's why I say, let's just sit back, watch the movie, see where it goes. Let's see where they're at when they're actually on the clock.
Yeah.
But I don't see Pickett there at 20. I don't see Malik Willis there at 20. And don't draft Sam Howell. Please, just don't. Don't. This is, and I joked. It wasn't a joke. Carson Strong at I think 52, I'd be fine with. And I think and that's the other thing too. Is he gonna run like Lamar Jackson? No. Can he even run as good as Kenny Pickett? No. But I think the Carson Strong could move in the pocket, and that's the thing. Like I think we're in this. Listen, Ben, best quarterback all time for the Steelers in the Hall of Fame. I get that, but we're so used to him just not being able to move at all for the last season and a half.
Yeah.
And when we hear Mike Tomlin say quarterback mobility, that we're expecting them to be a runner first. We don't need them to be a runner first, but Justin Herbert's not a runner first, but he had almost 100 yards against us because he knew that there were, he knew he had ways.
Very good point.
So,
yeah.
I agree with what Ryan said. And the other thing I'll mention is that there is no quarterback in this class that I would trade next year's first round pick for, because you look at some of the trade ups, right? Like Buffalo traded their current and future first round pick to move up for Josh Allen. Kansas City traded current and future to move up for Patrick Mahomes. There's no one in this class that I would trade my 2023 first round pick to move up for.
Totally agree.
If somebody falls to 10 or 11 and I'm looking at like a Devin Bush type trade where it's first and second round pick and some later round picks, maybe I start to consider it, but no one in this class would I trade next year's first round pick for.
If a guy falls to 15, maybe you start thinking about it. And it's got to be the right guy. It's got to be somebody they absolutely love. 10, no, because they need picks. They need talent.
There's a lot to fill
badly in a lot of spots, especially as Ian has pointed out multiple times. This Tuitt situation, this needs to get squared away before the draft. They need to know what their strategy is going to be long term. They need to sign somebody there and draft a player, if that's the case, if he's not coming back.
No, I agree.
And
so,
no. Yeah, the one other thing I'll say is that if anyone's listening, and I know that our shtick, our niche is kind of the older curmudgeon-y crowd, so most people will probably remember this. But
older curmudgeon-y crowd.
If anyone is listening,
they used to be our audience.
If anyone is listening that does not remember the 2011 draft, go back and look at it and take that as a warning for what happens when you reach on quarterbacks. Tennessee drafted Jake Locker 8th. Dallas took Pro Bowler Tyron Smith, offensive tackle, 9th. Jacksonville took Blaine Gabbert 10th. Houston took J.J. Watt 11th. What happens when you reach on a quarterback is you pass on damn good players.
Right.
So you don't need to reach on a quarterback. It's okay if you have a guy you love, it's okay to go get him. But don't reach on him because you need a quarterback at the expense of other damn good players.
I agree.
Like the best center in the draft who could actually solidify your line.
Yeah.
For example.
Yes.
Just as an example. Yeah.
I'm just saying there were 9 Pro Bowlers drafted after Jake Locker at 8, right? And Tennessee took him, and then Jacksonville took Blaine Gabbert, and then Minnesota took Christian Ponder 12th.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. God, that was a bad quarterback.
That was a fantastic
wow.
Didn't the Steelers lose so the Steelers, we started 0-4 in 2013.
Yeah.
Didn't we lose that opener to was Jake Locker the quarterback?
I don't know. He may have started, he may not. That was the worst defense they fielded in the last 20 years.
Oh,
2013.
I agree.
2013 was a terrible
defense. This
year
might have been worse.
Against the run.
Against
the run, yeah. Against the pass, not at all. That 2013 defense couldn't do anything well.
Oh, no,
nothing.
They couldn't.
Yeah, that was like that. That was like that first transition.
Was that weird Titans game where there was like a safety on the opening kickoff?
There was
and then Marquise Pouncey got hurt.
That's right.
I want to say it was Darius Raynaud for the Titans messed that up. We started off 2-0. The next drive, David DeCastro, because that was Jack Bicknell's the offensive line coach. That was his only year there, and David DeCastro literally like dove right into Pounce, and it wasn't his fault. Obviously, they had some sort of design, and it just didn't. Right. It just didn't happen.
Pounce wasn't out of the way.
Yeah, and then I think the 2 plays later, Isaac Redmond fumbled, and that was it. Like it was just all the way down. I mean, it was terrible.
Quicksand.
It was terrible. Oh, that 2013 season was rough, man.
Quicksand. Once you get into it, sometimes, and the momentum just going, you're sliding that way, you can't get out.
Impossible. Super Bowl coming up this weekend. I know all of us really could give 2 shits, but we're gonna.
I don't know. Actually, I have some pretty strong feelings about the state of Ohio.
Yeah, I know you do. Ryan, what do you think's going to happen in Super Bowl 56 coming up on Sunday evening?
Yeah, I don't care if I'm wrong. Whatever they
probably are.
I
not
think
holding against you.
Yeah, I think that this is. I think that when teams are peaking, you can see it, and I think that's where the Bengals are right now. Like they got the mojo, they got the momentum. It's also hard to keep that up. I get it, but I just think they have the confidence. I think it's going to be a much lower scoring affair than people think. I got the Bengals 23-20, and I have I have the difference maker being Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon's a really good running back. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised to see Joe Mixon get 100 yards on the ground. And I know that's crazy because the Rams both have good rush defenses, but I can see Mixon having a good day. And I don't want to say it's a walk-off, but it's going to be a late field goal that does it. And I think Mike Hilton's going to have an interception.
Oh, drive. Oh, geez, the predictions. Oh, my God. Ian, what do you got? So far, we got a Bengals 23-20.
Yeah, so I cannot bring myself to support any team in our division unless it's some random situation that helps the Steelers, where this is not. So as much as I despise the Shawn Mcveigh fanboys and have been on Twitter a lot saying that Shawn McVay only won with Jeff Fisher's players.
It's true.
This is true. I cannot support the Bengals or go with the Bengals. So I'm going to go. I think it will be close. The Bengals have the talent to keep it close.
Bungles.
The Bungles got the talent to keep it close, but I'm going to go with the Rams and Aaron Donald getting a big sack on Joe Burrow late in the game to force a fumble. So, but objectively though, all 3 Rams running backs are actually healthy for like the first time all season.
Yeah.
So I think that does make a difference. The Bengals interior defense is not very good. They have good pass rushers with Trey Hendrickson, but their interior defense is not good. The Rams can run the ball, take a little bit of pressure off Matthew Stafford, so he doesn't have to go full, Detroit Matthew Stafford. But it would be kind of cool to see Stafford win after all the shit he went through in Detroit.
Fuck that guy, but yeah.
But at the expense of the Bengals, yes. All right, so I'll cut to the chase. I'll go Rams 27-21.
Okay. All right. So we've got one for each here. Ben?
Okay. Well, again, I just want to reiterate that
please.
All Steelers fans should be rooting for the Rams because it's a twofer. Basically, if the Rams win a ring, every fan in Cleveland will be sad because OBJ wormed his way out of Cleveland and won a ring in the same season.
Yep.
They will all be pissed. And obviously the Cincinnati fans will be devastated. And the smiting of one's enemies really is always worthy of celebration. So fuck the entire state of Ohio. I just said that. And yeah, you should be rooting for the Rams. I agree with the point that Ian made before about the fact that finally the Rams running backs are healthy. That's going to help them immensely. If Stafford can settle down and not do Detroit Stafford, he'll be fine. He'll be okay. I don't see this being a low-scoring affair, though. I don't, unless they just both lean on running the ball, but I just don't see that happening because they have the wide receivers. They have the horses to throw the ball, so I see him doing that. Kind of a back and forth. I got it 35-27 Rams.
Whew. Okay. First of all, does anyone else think that Shawn Mcveigh looks a little bit like a guy trying to sell you solar panels?
Solar panels?
Yeah,
he does have that infomercial kind of a look.
He does, doesn't he?
That must be why Ian likes him so much.
It's something like that. The interesting thing about him is for an offensive genius, his teams don't put up a lot of points. And that
remember when he got out coached by Mike Tomlin, who had Mason Rudolph starting at quarterback?
Defense has caught on to what he was doing with the helmet thing.
Yeah,
and started doing the amoeba thing until they looked at the play clock and it got down below 15, and then they set so that McVay could not relay in his plays to the quarterback because McVay was dumb enough to say, "This is what we're doing."
Well, yeah, that's a big part of it. I obviously I want the Rams just simply because I don't want the Bengals. But to Ian's point, Cincinnati's hot. They remind me of teams in the past that are good teams, but not great teams, but they just start playing well at the right time. I think Zach Taylor is going to outcoach him. Now, whether or not Cincinnati takes care of the ball, can protect Joe Burrow, I don't know. I have concerns about that. But I just got a gut feeling.
It was only 9 sacks. What's the big deal?
Well, just a few. I think it's like 24-21 Cincinnati. I hate saying that, but I'll root for the Rams and
fuck
Stafford
you guys.
And, so they're 2-2. Anyway, those are our Super Bowl picks, and next week we'll certainly address that a little bit. And Andrew Whitworth named Man of the Year, the LA Rams offensive tackle. I don't know what he does. I'm not gonna poo-poo
I'm sure he's a good guy, but seriously, why isn't Cam Hayward getting more love? This is bullshit.
Cam. How many years in a row is Cam? 3 years in a row? I think.
A couple.
He's been nominated by the Steelers.
Yeah.
Almost every year.
Yeah, I'm to the point where I feel for the poor guy.
In my opinion, that's the biggest individual award you can win. I might sound silly, but I think it's not important. But no, Whitworth's a good dude. I just think that I don't know how that's voted upon. I think there's a
ratio of things. There's like
a team vote. Aspect. There's ballots. Yeah. I just think that
Yeah.
I don't really think there's a rhyme or reason. But I do think Cam should get it sooner rather than later.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, we'll put a wrap to this show. This has been the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And as always, go Steelers.
And as always, the Ravens suck still.
They finished in last place. How about that?